Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? These leftoids are absolutely seething. Joe Biden is simply existing. He's obviously a complete train wreck, a complete walking, barely talking disaster. The people are seeing it for what it really is, and that somehow makes us the bad guys. We're looking at this man who's a wilted vegetable. I mean, the guy is basically crusty SpongeBob, and we're simply observing the reality that, yeah, this isn't a good thing, and we're the bad guys. They're seething with rage because their president is old, can barely walk, and his brain doesn't work. Yeah, my apologies, that's not how this works, and you shouldn't just get to throw a tantrum and then walk straight into your re-election. Joe Biden has to be scrutinized. He has to be physically and mentally fit for office. He clearly isn't, and the Democrats screeching on this issue, well, it just ain't cutting it. That's the topic of today's video. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so this is the video that everybody's talking about. We played the clip and spoke about it during yesterday's segment. Joe Biden, dazed, confused, wandering around aimlessly. You know, typical Joe Biden mannerisms, forgetting where he is and who he is every 3 seconds like a freaking goldfish. He swims to one edge of the water bowl, forgets who he is and where he was going, and then turns around and swims back to the other edge, and then back and forth. Nothing out of the ordinary, a typical clip, but apparently it's fake news and a conspiracy theory.
But we also know, as we've talked about earlier this morning, many on the right and conservative media playing the disinformation game to paint an inaccurate picture of the president, including the front page of the New York Post today, which has a picture of President Biden seemingly wandering off in Italy, when really, as we showed the full video earlier, he was turning to congratulate and salute some of the troops, some of these who had just used the parachutes to come down and visit the world leaders. So how do you, as the Biden campaign, how do you combat this sort of disinformation, which is everywhere and seemingly only growing and spreading?
Yeah, thanks, Lemire, for raising this. I mean, first of all, we have to point it out where it is, right? We have to make it clear that disinformation is alive and well. We have to use surrogates and voices across the country to combat this and make it clear that not only do we not play this game, but to your point, President Biden was out there literally representing America at the G7, saluting our troops, you know, doing what he does as president of the United States. And look, we're going to see more of this. I mean, this is just the reality of campaigning in 2024. So we have to combat that disinformation. We have to hit it hard when it happens and make it clear that these are dirty tactics that MAGA Republicans are using because they can't run on the issues, Lemire. They have to use these dirty tactics like this because they are not right with Americans on the issues. So we're going to see more of this. We're going to do what we can to combat it. But it does take the voices of surrogates across the country. It does take the media to call it out. It does take social media platforms where a lot of Americans are getting their information to point it out as well. And we just have to call it out where it is and do everything we can to push back against this disinformation because we're going to continue to see more of it, and it's important that we call it out when we see it.
Oh, the leftist fact checkers are furiously typing at their keyboards. Soy face and all. Fact check false, he was interacting with somebody in the background. What a ridiculous fact check. We saw what we saw, we see what we always see. A confused Joe Biden who needs to be pulled and chaperoned everywhere. Joe who never really knows what's going on, looking confused with his mouth open and all droopy-eyed. The guy's a damn fossil, and it's obvious to everyone, and they are seething. And now why are they seething? Well, they're seething because their strategy isn't working. The whole gimmick here is for Joe Biden to stay in the basement. He's not to poke his head out unless absolutely necessary. I mean, come on, everybody knows it. Even the journalists at CNN unfortunately have to admit it.
He's been snippy recently about being asked multiple questions in these press conferences, which we should just be clear, and we're both former White House correspondents, these are very limited. They're called 2 and 2s, and the reporters tend to, there's a tradition of asking more than the questions. Yeah. It's just pretty usual because there are not that many questions to ask.
And follows as well.
That's right.
You didn't really see many there.
And this president has, I mean, he falls far below his predecessors when it comes to interviews and when it comes to press conferences. We just need to be clear about that. They have a lot of questions to ask him, and these reporters do not have many opportunities. They've all dragged themselves to Italy for this G7 summit to do one thing, their jobs, ask these questions.
Yes.
The strategy is obviously to keep Joe Biden away from the spotlight, for him to show up twice during the debates with all kinds of substances running through his veins in very controlled and orchestrated debates hosted by leftist networks, because they don't want you to know that he's senile. He's out of it. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, the reports coming out of the G7 are just brutal. In Joe motion, daughtery Biden is, quote, worst he's ever been. Everyone is worried, say G7 insiders, as vids show him shuffling away and freezing again. That's what foreign outlets are reporting. But these seething Democrats want to pretend that it's all a distraction, all a conspiracy theory. No, it's just that the truth is getting out, and that's politically damaging for them, because then Donald Trump gets to do this.
We're a nation that is being laughed at all over the world. We have a leader that's being laughed at all over the world. And we're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around fast. So I imitated him a couple of times getting off the stage because he's unable to find a stair. Look, stair, 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 stair. All over you have stairs. When he finishes his 1.5 minute speech, speeches last for about a minute, never takes questions. When he does, he picks up a thing and he goes, let's see here. Jill of NBC. Yes, where's Jill? I'm here, right, because they put her there. So she'll read it. What flavor ice cream is your favorite? And then he picks up the thing, vanilla. Think of it, what they do. You saw me in the White House. It was like war.
Joe Biden is a laughingstock. He's a national disgrace, but even worse, he's a global disgrace and a global laughingstock. A total worldwide embarrassment. For them to get this guy elected, they're going to have to somehow convince the American people that everything they've seen, everything they believe about Joe Biden, well, it's simply wrong and he's actually competent. Because the way it stands right now, it's pretty clear. Even MSNBC knows it to be true.
When it comes to describing each candidate, this new poll shows that voters say Trump is more tough, energetic, effective, competent.
Voters overwhelmingly say that Trump is more tough, energetic, effective, and competent than sleepy, creepy Piss Pants Joe. The election is obviously sliding towards Donald Trump's favor, with all the betting predictions and election forecast models projecting a likely Trump victory, and with all of these states continuing to trend rightward, with a supposed or possible huge enthusiasm gap. The way it stands right now, things are looking pretty tough. Democrats have a Goliath task ahead of them. They've got 5 good months here to really convince millions of voters that Joe Biden's competent and able to do the job. Otherwise, this thing's going to keep on slipping away. I don't know if they have the ability to do it. First off, because I don't think Joe has the ability to pull it off. And secondly, I don't think they have sophisticated enough tools to execute this play effectively. People are constantly theorizing and joking about Joe Biden having body doubles. There's an interview that's popping around Twitter now where the lighting is really strong on his face and it creates a very sharp shadow right below his jawline on his neck, and people are theorizing that he's wearing a mask, it's Joe Biden's body double. But the reality is we don't have that kind of technology. Democrats don't possess that kind of technology to literally puppet a Joe Biden bot in front of the American people. That's what they would need to do to really convince the public. It would have to be a full-on, totally realistic, indistinguishable from reality CGI presentation that could get the job done. That's the only thing. But they obviously don't have that, and their strategy of running to the media to seethe and cry and whine that it's not fair that the media is practicing basic journalism and covering Joe Biden at these public events. Yeah, this crybaby tantrum tactic, this response, this reaction, I don't think it's convincing anybody. And the conclusion may be that on this issue, on convincing the American people that Joe Biden's okay and that you should elect him, well, these Democrats, unfortunately for them, may be shit out of luck. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.